Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist. We have just had a very destructive, intense, deadly earthquake strike Japan. A magnitude 7.1 according to the Japanese authorities, the Japan Meteorological Agency. USGS has it categorized as a 6.8. I will be going with the JMA classification because, well, the Japanese are probably the best seismologists in the world, and if they say it's a 7.1, it is. They felt it, they experienced it. There has been widespread destruction across southern Japan. This is where it occurred. As you can see, the epicenter occurred today on the 28th of July 2026, which is right in this critical time period that I have been discussing for quite some time now, because we have the full moon tomorrow. We do see this clustering in general of higher magnitude earthquake activity around new moons and full moons due to increased tidal stresses. There's also electromagnetic effects that we could discuss. Today is not going to be an education lesson like that. We are going to do some reporting of what is happening right now, boots on the ground, that type of deal. I apologize for being late to this and being in California. I was asleep. So getting on this as fast as I can. But we also have a larger, more critical planetary geometry that goes exact tomorrow. But really these things have a time window and we are well within that. So perfect signification too as to there being a large destructive earthquake. So we'll discuss that just to get that kind of info in front of you if you're curious. The other thing to note before we jump into some of the more technical details as it relates to this earthquake, just keep in the back of your mind, is that this is here located near a whole bunch of volcanoes, okay? So Japan has quite a few volcanoes, but it has a lot more here to the south. And just zooming around, you'll see volcanoes all over the place, including some of Japan's most active volcanoes. I mean, this one, look how torn up this one is. So what we do see is this connection between earthquakes and volcanoes, and that powerful earthquakes can sometimes set off volcanoes. It's not every single time, but it's often enough that's worthy of note. And so we see these volcanoes just across the landscape of Japan. And well, we just had this 7.1. So in the days following, it'll be really interesting to track what's happening with the volcanoes, see if there's any notable change in their activity. If not, that's a good sign, but we really need probably a few weeks of observation to kind of rule out the possibility. Because think of how those seismic waves just propagating through the magma conduits, or the roots that feed these volcanoes, get jolted, and that can cause there to be destabilization of volatiles in the magma. They can depressurize them and boom, they go up. So that's the thing. The other thing to be mindful of just immediately in the next few days ahead is that this could be a foreshock. So it's not that likely. It's maybe a 5% chance or so. That's a foreshock. I mean, maybe up to 10%. Of course, if it actually is going to be a foreshock to something bigger, then it's a 100% chance. But statistically, it's about a 5% chance that if you get a big earthquake, it's actually a foreshock to something bigger. This has already been very destructive, classified as a 7, according to JMA, which is their most intense rating for an earthquake, specifically for this area here. Let me put on the roads and maps and everything. So Kumamoto, huge destruction across this area. If we get something bigger, then that could really be bad. Because if this is a foreshock, then we're probably looking at 1 magnitude higher or a double sequence, which would put it at roughly the same magnitude, or maybe a little bit more or less. Or if it's 1 magnitude higher, of course, now you're looking at a megaquake. So this is a very active situation right now. I mean, here, for example, this is pretty crazy. Check out this explosion that occurred at Aeon Mall as a result of I think they categorized it as a gas leak that then led to this explosion just after the earthquake. But that was a big event. You know, the earthquake triggered this, similar to like 1906, for example, San Francisco, where the earthquake was destructive, but then all the breaks causing all the fires, is where the real destruction occurred. So this happened during this earthquake, and then here also we see the Kyushu Expressway having severe damage. Thankfully not full collapses, but certainly it is no longer drivable. So this is drone footage from that. This earthquake, again, being very, very destructive. Whew, yeah, really not good. So let us just look at our basic earthquake details, and we'll get more into some of this live footage. No idea as to a death tally at this moment. I mean, there are people that died in that mall explosion. There's going to be others, of course, but typically with Japan, with earthquakes, they're pretty good at not having a high death toll because of how well built their infrastructure is, and also the earthquake preparedness that they're all drilled with. So, the Fukushima disaster was so destructive because of the tsunami. It wasn't really the earthquake. I mean, the earthquake obviously was a big deal, but it was the tsunami which killed a lot of people, because that was, people were close to the coast, and it was so fast and sudden they didn't have time to get to high ground. No tsunami risk from this. No tsunami risk. USGS has this categorized as a 6.8, but again, the Japanese Meteorological Agency has it categorized as a 7.1. And actually, let's go to that really quick. Here we see that. So they have this intensity scale behind me. You can see that right here, showing 7 being the highest seismic intensity. And if we go right into the region here, we see 7 and lots of 6 pluses. So this reached their highest intensity for a magnitude 7.1. That's what they're calling it. Depth 10 kilometers. So occurred shallow. This was a shallow earthquake, and it was a deadly earthquake. Following just about a month, just a little bit more than a month after what occurred in Venezuela, which was a 7.2 and a 7.5 on the 24th of June, as you may recall. And then also there was a magnitude 7.2 that struck Japan, though to much less effect, because it was off the coast to the north 30 minutes afterwards. So basically, like nearly one lunar cycle later, a little bit more than that, because the lunar cycle is 28 days and today's the 28th, and that was back on the 24th. But basically 1 month later, another magnitude 7 striking Japan. There's been a ton of magnitude 7s that have been striking Japan over the past 8 months or so, a little bit more than 8 months. Going back to November 2025, there's been a huge seismic increase for Japan since then. All of that leading to concerns of there perhaps being a larger megaquake coming, and this could all just be foreshock activity. And this one now really specifically highlighting that the risk of that could be anywhere, because all the others have been taking place to the north, this one here to the south. So here we have our 7.1. We see some aftershocks that have come in. According to USGS, 5.6 aftershock, and then some 4s. So we're looking at a magnitude 6 plus aftershock for this. This 5.6, probably not sufficient enough to be the main aftershock. No huge earthquake swarm yet from this. So I'm sure there's 3s and 2s and 1s in magnitude. But it's not like we've had the 7.1 and then a flurry of mid or high magnitude 5s. So there's still definitely more potential for big earthquakes to occur afterwards. And of course, that potential for a main shock. And let's look at our map here. So here's our interactive map for the intensity. And this shows us just exactly where the fault plane is, because you can map that out with the intensity. We see here that the highest intensity contours are following this direction. So the fault is along here and spread out pretty homogeneously outwards like this. Areas like Yanagawa here, not experiencing too crazy of shaking, but this whole populated region there from Kumamoto down to Yatsushiro, really experiencing intense shaking. You can see how heavily developed it is too. So quite a lot of development here. Not Tokyo, not like 40 million people, but this is a big city in Japan here. So this is a big deal. And again, we have those volcanoes just nearby. It's going to be really important to track those in the days ahead. If we go back here, we can look to our Did You Feel It map. And we did get some responses in. And you notice that they have it rated on the Did You Feel It as levels of 9. And I don't think any of those are 10 with the dark burgundy, the dark red. But clearly very, very intense. And even some intensity here off to the side. So only 55 responses have come in from Japan. This, of course, is the USGS, and well, the Japanese are going to use whatever Japanese service that they have. But still, we got some people, maybe Americans or travelers, whoever, to report on this, and clearly very, very intense. We can look at our moment tensor plot for this. This shows us what type of earthquake it was. And we see two solutions here, but since we know the fault plane in general, we know it's at this one right there. So we see it has a strike of 212. A dip to that fault, that slope, is 75. And then the rake here is negative 164. So if it's negative, it means there's an extensional component to it, which is where basically you have one fault block move down, whereas the opposite is a reverse thrust where you have it actually shoot overhead. And this is compressing. If it's a reverse thrust, which this is not, an extensional quake is pulling apart. So rather than pushing, it's more pulling. But as you see with that rake number of negative 164, it's very close to 180. If you have 0 or 180 with these rake measurements, that means that's perfectly strike slip. Whereas 90 is a perfect extensional or thrust up, right? You know, vertical motion exactly is 90. And then perfect side-to-side motion is 180 or 0. So being very close to negative 180, this shows that there was just a slight extensional component to it. Most of it was side by side. Again, that strike there, 212, dip of slope of 75 degrees. And so we see that lines up very nicely here because we go back to our interactive map once more. And if this is 180 right here, you can see that basically that's right on 212. So we have the fault plane well identified as a result of the seismic waveforms that came through in the calculations. And this is a steeply sloping fault with a little bit of expansion. So we had part of this area sink a little bit, but for the most part, it was just a side-by-side motion. So very, very big earthquake, biggest earthquake in a long time. Well, going back a month, but biggest earthquake for that area in a long time. If we look here at our map, going back to 1980, I believe I said it too, for magnitude 6.5 and greater. And again, you're going to have to take these numbers here with a grain of salt because USGS usually drops the magnitude lower than what the Japanese will say for their own earthquakes. Of course, they have their seismographs located all across their islands. So they have the good, clean, precise data right there. USGS is getting it from halfway across the world. So I always go with the Japanese numbers because they have a really good network and they know what they're doing. So a lot of these numbers are actually lower than they are, according to Japanese, by like 0.2, 0.3 magnitudes. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Here, we see a magnitude 7 that occurred almost the exact same location in 2016. So same depth, 10 kilometers. That was very destructive. This, here, of course, is showing 6.8, but look here, same aspect, red pager, 9 on the intensity map. So if we go here, let's look at our fault solution. Maybe it was the exact same fault. Pretty much, there it is. Nearly the same strike. Nearly the same dip for that fault angle, the slope, and then also nearly the same value for the rake. So considering how close together these two are, here we go. Considering how close together these two are, we now see that there is a 10-year reoccurrence interval, at least in the time frame right now, a 10-year reoccurrence interval for this area, because these are only what is this, like 6 miles, 10 kilometers, maybe a little bit more, like 12 kilometers away from each other. These are basically the same fault rupturing. Because again, this entire area ruptured. You know, with a magnitude 7 quake, you're getting a pretty long fault rupture, like 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers, 150 kilometers perhaps. So probably more like 100 kilometers, maybe it's like 80, but in general, these ruptured the same fault within 10 years. You'll notice that there isn't another magnitude 7 earthquake or 6.5 earthquake or greater here other than these going back to 1980. So with that in mind, it looks like this area specifically right here is just waking it up right now. And maybe this is a new phase of hyperactivity for that fault. It probably also ruptured in part because there was strain accumulated on it. The magnitude 7 in 2016 didn't fully rupture it. And while we've been having tons of activity up here in the recent time frame. So if you go here, we see newest first. Here is the earthquake that occurred on the 24th. That was categorized as a 7.2 according to the JMA. USGS has it as a 6.9. Again, I'm going with what they say. But then also here we see in May a 6.7 right there. Here in April, a 7.4. In March, a 6.5. And then back to December, a 6.7. We go here, December again, 6.8. Following, those are aftershocks for the 7.6 that struck there on the 8th of December. And then we had this activity there, 6.8 in November of the 9th of November 2025. So we were looking at some preliminary earthquake activity that started up in Japan back in November, maybe it was late October, but basically right before we started to get these earthquakes, the 6.4, the 6.8, tons of magnitude 5s in this area. When there was this magnitude 5 burst that started, you know, I started beating the drum as to, hey, big earthquake coming. Then we started seeing that with November with the 6.4, 6.8. 6.4 is not listed here because I have it set for 6.5 or greater. And then December we had the 7.6, and look at all the activity that we've had since then. And since March, we've had it basically every single month, right? March, April, May, June, July. But you'll notice all of these are up here, whereas if we zoom out, right, this is the first one now to the south. All the others are up here. So you've had these just battering off, not really being destructive, thankfully. The long period seismic waves coming in, no tsunamis generated from them of note. People have been feeling them, but they haven't been destructive because they weren't right there on land. But that probably loaded energy into that fault such that it got to a point where it finally ruptured. And of course, we have this historic planetary geometry right now, this critical planetary alignment. The full moon is tomorrow, but it's already, you know, one day on either side of the exact full moon is when you have a full moon. So we have the full moon right now, and we have this Jupiter, Sun, Earth, Moon, Pluto alignment as part also of a larger planetary basket configuration. So yeah, this is exactly the sort of event that we would expect for an alignment like that based off of the archetypal significations of those planets. We discussed that, and well, something happened. We didn't know where it was going to happen. California was looking top of the list in terms of locations, but Japan is also basically always right now top of the list, as we've seen, just because they've been having so much seismicity. And that is all following after the magnitude 8.8 megaquake that occurred here on the 29th of July, 2025. So one day off from a year ago, exactly, we had the first megaquake in 4 years and the strongest earthquake since the 2011 Great Tohoku earthquake, right? This is being magnitude 8.8, that one being magnitude 9.0, 9.1. Most people put at 9.1. That loaded a ton of energy into Japan. And it took just a few months for Japan to start releasing that, because this again was the very end of July, and then the beginning of November is when things started to pop off. We're still dealing with that 1 year later, this new one being very destructive. So we're going to probably look back through that historic record a little bit more. But let us look first at some videos of what's happening in Japan. So we're just going to go through here and kind of zoom around, check out a few things, get a sense of what's happening. It's definitely not good. This earthquake basically struck at sunset. So right when it was before sunset, but pretty much the sun was starting to go down when this earthquake struck in the land of the rising sun. So we may get a lot of media that we don't necessarily want with this search. There is a different search that we can look at. People have been reporting this very odd anvil cloud here that occurred. And that's pretty odd. You know, there's really no reason why this needs to be connected to earthquake other than in time, but it's so out of place there. I think maybe there was a strong electric gradient that was produced by this earthquake that then perhaps caused this to form. We know that earthquakes cause there to be positive charge to accumulate at the ground surface. And well, maybe that is an indication of that, a little sign of that. We'll talk more about the space weather and some of the physics and stuff later. We'll see if there was any anomalies that were picked up from this. Okay. Here are some scenes from the mall after that explosion, it looks like. Yeah, so there we see the text, the lettering. The Aeon Mall, very, very destructive. The entire back side of it blew out. I would think there's more than just a few deaths from that. I mean, I saw a report saying like a few people died, but I can't imagine that large of an area of the mall was just having a couple people walking around or at their desk or something. I think it's probably dozens, if not more. For reference, that 2016 earthquake that struck, which we can actually look at here. This is very destructive, and there were thousands of lives lost from this. I think it was like, well, here it is. Yeah, well, they were talking about it. Maybe they're talking about it on this page here. Yeah, I think they're talking about it on this page. So we go to overview. Okay, injuries, sorry. Injuries were quite high. I misread that. So back in April 2016, the sequence included 2 foreshocks, 6.2, 6.0, followed by the magnitude 7 the main shock. The foreshocks caused 9 fatalities and injured 800 people, while the main shock killed 40 people and injured over 2,000. 12,000 houses were damaged or destroyed, and the Aso Hayashi Bridge collapsed into the river. So yeah, we don't know the extent of the damage. There's been a lot of damage also to the surrounding areas. It's not just the bridge or the mall that I showed you. Kumamoto Castle experienced some damage. There's been shrines, temples, buildings collapsed. But and we're probably looking at quite a few injuries for what happened in Japan right now, but probably not too many deaths, thankfully, though obviously it was a big quake. Here's the cat sensing the earthquake, probably from the P wave that jolted it, and there are the surface waves. So that's a very, so that's a very clear example of the first compressional wave striking. The cat was able to pick that up because, well, they're on it, and then the shear waves came in, and there are the surface waves where everything just starts to go nuts. Let's, instead of looking at Japan earthquake, let's go to the search here, which seems to be better as it relates to getting up-to-date imagery. There's that mall explosion. Here's the backside of this mall afterwards. So this is one of the focal points for sure of this. Hope you're all doing okay. Prayers for Japan. We'll do a sound healing later to just send some good energy their way. They've been needing it over the past 9 months. That is absolutely sure. So let's continue on. Here we see a video of the shaking here. And it lasted about 40 to 50 seconds. Some of the videos show the shaking lasting about 50 seconds, all the way from start to finish. So of course, there's going to be maybe like 35, 40 seconds where it's the strongest, and then it tapers off on either side. You can tell that this location was a little further away because they didn't experience shaking for 50 seconds. But still notable, people felt that, of course. Here we see some video, just random videos of the earthquake and collapses occurring at this shrine. Oh, this is from the earthquake that occurred 2024. So we're going to move on from that. Sometimes people repost old stuff, but here we see something here. So this is the Kumamoto Castle. There's been some damage here as well from this earthquake. This just happened, like 8-9 hours ago now. So in the next couple of days, we're going to have much better information as it relates to the full destruction of this earthquake. But for right now, this is what we have to see. So power's been knocked out, thousands of people, evacuation orders for aftershocks have been put out. Yeah, right on the 28th today of July, which is right in this critical period that we've been talking about now for at least a couple months. Because, well, with planetary geometry, you can forecast out ahead of time. Here's some more footage here. Roads buckling, cracks. Big movement there. So this is clearly near the fault trace. If we're seeing this so torn up like that, this is clearly near the fault trace. So this is a big earthquake. These strike slip earthquakes can be very, very damaging. And they can, the way they sometimes rupture, it's pretty much instant. So yeah, they got a lot to repair, to rebuild. And this is right now happening as the yen is being devalued like crazy. Bank of Japan is having to raise rates. The market, the free rate on the rates that the free market's pricing in is already much higher than what the Bank of Japan is officially doing. And the yen has started sliding against the dollar very quickly. Now it's at 163. It was holding 160 for a long time. Now it's 163 yen per dollar. This is only going to make the situation worse. So yeah, Japan is one of these critical points for the global economy, and when they start getting hit with earthquakes and stuff, it's not going to be, it's not going to help the situation because they're going to have to focus, on the problems back home. So expect maybe some contamination to spread from this financially, perhaps. I mean, it depends on what the final toll is in terms of cost. So yeah, hit at 4:27 p.m. local time. So just probably 3 hours before sunset. Let's go to latest, see what's popping up on latest. Lots of people probably posting their own updates here. Okay, here we get some photos. Wow. We got a translation here. Okay, so the earthquake also caused the collapse of homes, the derailment of a train at Yatsushiro Station, the fall of a chimney at a paper factory, Nippon Paper Industries, and damage the stone walls of the historic Kumamoto Castle. Tons of disruptions to basic services as well. 46,000 households without power in the Kyushu region, and interruptions to mobile phone service as a result. Operations have been suspended at local airports, and yeah, there is a potential for a larger earthquake to occur in the days ahead. It could even be a little bit further out than that, but that's what we're seeing right now. Here's a video from a warehouse, it looks like, of just tons of, and then the power goes out, or it's pulsing. Yes, this is about 40 to 50 seconds of strong shaking experience right at the epicenter location. Anywhere that had that strong fault, was on that fault. And aftershocks are still hitting, right? So aftershock, a magnitude 5.6 aftershock like the USGS has, that's a solid 10 seconds of shaking afterwards. So a lot of damage already came in, and we could be looking at quite a bit more. Here we see some of these webcams that are set up and showing how they're showing that shaking. They kind of exaggerate, the webcams kind of just in general seem to exaggerate the motion, but also at the same time, if they're really strongly fixed onto a building, let's say, that's probably a pretty accurate look at what it is. The 7.1 is strong. It's going to knock you off your feet, or very likely is going to do so. Here we see dash cam footage of this. Look at the water sloshing in the back. Wow. Yeah, and just to point out again, there's been no significant tsunami from this. So there was a tsunami watch that was put out from the JMA, but no significant tsunami. If it was more offshore and bigger, that would have been a concern, a real concern. But thankfully, that's not that didn't occur. Continue to go through some of these videos here to get a sense of scale of this. Jumping on this as quick as I could for you guys because I was asleep when this had occurred. And I wake up when I wake up. Yeah, so here's some more residential damage we can see. Like there's going to be scenes like this from all across the area. And it's just, the big events are the ones that are hitting the news and kind of choking up the algorithm. But there's going to be a lot of damage across the area. Here we see an example of the shaking. Though this, I'm not sure this is for, okay, yeah. That's the time, not the date. So that's the time right there. Again, it occurred at 4:27 p.m. That's 7:27 Universal Time on the 28th of July, 0728. So some interesting numerology here too. Oh wow, let's oh my God. Look at that. That's insane. That's really, really big. So this must be close to that fault. It just ripped it to shreds. Wow. Wow. I wish I read Japanese, but there we have some information that's being put out showing, it looks like, the fault traces that they're looking at specifically. And it looks like they're showing there's a up to 6% chance of there being a magnitude 7.5 in this region, though I don't know if that means like long term or this the next couple of days. Again, I don't speak Japanese. I read it or anything. And here they're showing that there's a 0 to 16% chance of a 7.3 further to the south. That's probably their aftershock warning. But it doesn't look like the probabilities are all that high, thankfully. Some more damage here. Yeah, that explosion really something. Okay, so we'll maybe come back to this. I think we've probably seen enough here. Let us discuss this critical planetary geometry that is active. Just let me show you this, all right? So And we could be looking at more earthquake activity too. Just because we have 7.1 Japan doesn't mean that's all it done, all she wrote. Like we could be looking at more powerful destructive activity. We've been having Shivaluch volcano, for example, up in Kamchatka, exploding basically every single day for the past week plus. With this big growth on its lava dome. I'm going to be releasing a video on that soon, but we're seeing some pretty big activity. So here is this alignment right now. You see that we're nearly at our perfect full moon. If we go forward to the 29th, there it is, moon, earth, sun. We get a full moon every 28 days, of course. But if we go back to today, here's the planetary alignment that we're in. So this is a Jupiter, Sun, Earth, Moon, Pluto alignment. You also have Juno in there as well, which is an asteroid. So Juno is actually like right here. So it's a significant alignment though. And the reason why this is really kind of important is because not only is that Jupiter-Pluto alignment really specifically speaking to big destructive events of the Earth, it also is part of a larger planetary basket. So let me show you that. Here is our planetary basket. And this is with the same program, but I have the lines here to really clearly show you the geometry. So just watch my cursor. This is for the 29th. There's the full moon alignment. You see that it's not a perfect opposition with the Earth in there, but pretty darn close. But see Jupiter and Pluto there, and then Pluto is in a 60-degree sextile to Neptune, which is in a 60-degree sextile to Uranus, which is in a 60-degree sextile to Jupiter, meaning that Neptune and Jupiter are in a 120-degree trine, Uranus and Pluto are in a 120-degree trine, and interesting is that if you mark these out, Saturn, which typically doesn't look like it's in this alignment if you use this like a astrological chart, right? It doesn't appear to be participating. It's actually very close to that convergence zone, which I find fascinating. So in fact, this is like a really well laid out planetary geometry, and this Pluto-Jupiter axis there, that is where it's really critical. But you have all the other planets in harmonic aspect to them. So that's really something in my mind. And the thing with Pluto-Jupiter is, well, what is Pluto? Pluto is the god of the underworld, right? So the Earth, the subterranean Earth. And Pluto is also representative of power, transformation, just big destructive events. And then Jupiter is this influence that makes everything bigger. It's inflationary, and when you get Jupiter and Pluto put together, you take something that's powerful and you scale it up even bigger. Well, you have Earth in that configuration with the full moon, and lunar rhythms are well connected to earthquake activity. Imagine the earthquake activity that the Earth had actually around the creation of the moon, right? Whether it was from an impact or let's say the moon was captured, either way, we've had this orbital evolution of the moon, where initially it would have been quite elliptical, where not just a circle would have swung in close and then swung further out, right? Think of the tidal stresses that would have created. Only over time has that been moderated. It's actually very possible that it's the large moon that Earth has that has caused plate tectonics actually to originate in the first place because of those tidal stresses, getting convection going. So the moon is intimately connected with the geologic cycle here on Earth, and it's still guiding those rhythms today. And so it's connected into this. Now, in addition to that, Pluto's in an Earth sign of Capricorn, and Jupiter there is in the, or constellation rather, and Jupiter there is in the constellation of Cancer, which is connected into power. So you see that this is a very perfect signification for what occurred today. That's why we were talking about this, and well, this is what happened. This is what happened. So yeah, the good thing I guess I could point out is that because of this larger configuration, this is more of a hopeful sign right here. Like the Uranus, Neptune, sextiles, and all of the trines and everything, those are speaking more to that there are going to be solutions to this, and that maybe this powerful event that occurred here will actually then lead to a good end result. Maybe lots of international aid will help the situation out or something like that, right? Like there's a silver lining to this, as indicated by these harmonic aspects. So yeah, I mean, the fact that this occurred on the 28th, when this is really with the full moon exact on the 29th, but it's been active already. The Jupiter Pluto alignment, for example, that was really earlier in July. If you really want the exact one, it was more like the 3rd, 4th, 5th of July. I mean, this is, you see it right here. Sat, Pluto, Sun, Jupiter. It's heliocentric, but then you see how Earth really clicks into this with the full moon right here. So yeah, big powerful things. Talk about the space weather really quick. Here we have it. We have been in a solar storm impact, though it's been incredibly minor. So I wouldn't say that this contributed to it. We did have a high-speed stream impact back here on the 23rd, but we pretty much exited out of that high-speed stream here yesterday on the 27th. You see the solar wind velocity went up and then we went down. And here is when that coronal mass ejection impact came in. So we've had a little bit of solar wind chop, but nothing super obvious as it relates to high magnitude earthquakes. This one really seems to be more related to the planetary geometry if you have to connect it to anything, and also all the recent earthquake activity that that has been loading up the area, that southern part of Japan, with the potential for these big earthquakes. So we're looking at a chronograph view, which shows us basically the outflows of solar wind and solar storms and plasma from the sun. The sun is being denoted by this white circle there, but we have to put a disk over it to block out the light so we can see the fainter emissions, okay? Now you'll also see the stars behind the sun, and well, we see Jupiter there because it's performing its superior conjunction. That's that alignment I'm talking about. This is part of it. We also call these cazemis. That's when it goes exact with the sun. And so we see it there approaching its superior conjunction today. And if I go back and look at our C2 view, we see it even more clearly. Here is our superior conjunction of Jupiter. So I was, again, specifically looking at this alignment for something big to happen, and well, we've had it happen. Yeah, and if there's any issues with the live stream chat, just get rid of them. Just do it. Don't mess around. Just get rid of them. Anyone that's not respecting the chat and the flow of the conversation, the actual topic at hand, give them the boot. Give them a wake-up call. So yeah, we see that this is, you know, very clear and obvious. And that you can track things based off of these cazemis and off of these planetary alignments and based off of space weather and more. Question is where? That's really the big question. It's like, where is the event going to occur? That's where it's difficult. Japan's top of the bingo card right now just because of all the events that have been happening there. But again, giving a specific forecast or a specific location, that's where we kind of start to struggle because you need pre-earthquake signals to do that. That data is often hidden behind private institutions or like universities, and they just don't publish the data publicly, or they need to crunch the data. It's not like real time. So if we had more of this real time information open source, then we could probably start to really actually do some pretty amazing forecasting, more so than possible right now. So yeah, we'll I think we'll do a question and answer. Pretty much covered everything that needs to get covered at this point. And then we'll do a sound healing. Yeah. So looking like the latest earthquake to strike, aftershock being this 4.8 right there. I guess I do want to go back here and just look at some of these other earthquakes before we do the Q&A. Because we go to newest first, we can kind of go back in time. So here was our 6.8 that struck on the 13th of January. Nearby, off the coast, you see a 7.1 there that occurred slightly before. That was on the Lions Gate, the 8.8 on 2024. I remember covering that one. So There's been activity in other locations as well over the past few years, as you can see. But then we got to go, well, yeah, after that, where are we for that one? 2024, here it is. Then we had the 6.5 Bonin Islands, and then the Noto Peninsula earthquake there. Also a red pager and an extreme on the map. This was a significant earthquake. You see that these people here felt it very strongly, but thankfully most of Japan didn't feel it all that much. But this is the sort of activity that you can get all across Japan. Most seismically active place in the world, as you can tell. And there's really few locations that are protected from like being the epicenter of a big earthquake. That's the thing. Imagine a magnitude 8 striking underneath Tokyo. I'm sure it's probably going to happen at some point. It's happened before geologically, undoubtedly. It's going to happen again, probably. We hope no time soon. But imagine a magnitude 8 striking directly under Tokyo. I mean, it could really be bad. These sort of earthquake events can happen. They have happened. We just saw Venezuela, tens of thousands dead, just a month ago now. So thankfully, though, most of them occur off the coast, but then you have the tsunami risk from that, which can be very destructive. So prayers for Japan. We'll do a Q&A now. See what's come in. Corrine Young, sending some Reiki. Another cosmic synchronicity warning. Degrees in Barbeau's basket are 4s. Yeah, so this is all occurring at 4 degrees if you use Western Tropical. And there's also, the 4 main planets of Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And 4, of course, corresponds to foundation. So thanks for that analysis. And IDF, Shalom, thank you so much. Jay Hussar. Yeah, but we'll find out. We'll see. I'll keep up to date, and if something happens, I'm right there for you guys as soon as I can. Susan, thank you for the super thanks. And Dixie, thank you for the super thanks as well. Nikki, thank you for the super thanks. No, we've discussed this many times. We don't have really software to track back as far as we need to see if we can find this sort of planetary alignment with the basket. So, no, I mean, I maybe if I scroll back the clock like 20,000 years or something, I don't know. And then Kit Bashed. Yeah, we will do one. Don't worry. Thank you so much. Okay, and thank you for the follow-up super thanks, IDF. And just a big one right here just came in from Geraldine. Thank you so much for the very generous super thanks. We'll take some questions from the audience. Oh, and let's look at the antipode really quick. Antipode for California is actually more like Madagascar. It's kind of near Madagascar, but let's look at the antipode for Japan, because we often see these antipodal quakes. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. It seems to slip my memory quite often. Let's see if that pops up though. It does. So the antipode here is to the east of the main subduction zone for South America. So we could be looking at, and the thing with these antipodal quakes, because we see this very clearly, the thing with these antipodal quakes is that they do not occur directly where the epicenter antipode is. It's usually 5 to 15% off. That's when I've looked at these, it's actually in that 5 to 15% deviation range. So that would put that right here, or it would put it along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, or perhaps down here to the south in Drake Passage. But we are now looking at a higher probability of there being a magnitude 6.5 plus earthquake in the subduction zone, on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, where there's been a lot of activity over the past week or so, or down here in Drake Passage. But I think probably more so South America. We're waiting for big earthquake activity to hit South America already. We really haven't had any for a few years now. So like 2 plus years. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Question from Fanatic. Does the Japan earthquake increase the risk for one in California now? Not necessarily. And the reason I say that is because we've been seeing tremendous activity in Japan over the past 9 months, 8, 9 months, again, right? Going back to November 2025, but we haven't been seeing tremendous activity here in California. We did have the magnitude 5.6 earthquake that was very notable. That struck in between Ukiah and Willits, but we haven't been seeing anywhere anything reciprocal really. That 5.6 occurring the same day, by the way, as the 7.2 that struck on the 24th of June. So that, that is notable, but it's not like every single time we've been having big earthquakes here, we've had some big one pop off here. So they are on other sides of the Pacific plate, right? So there's definitely a connection there, all the way on the other side and at the same latitude. But whatever connection exists, it's a little bit more tenuous, or a little less. It's a maybe hard to decipher connection. I mean, there are a lot of energetic connections across the ocean there between California and Japan, certainly. But something I can point to immediately and forecast off of, not really. But California already is in a critical period right now. Some of the factors that are making that critical are starting to wane, but others right now, like the alignment, is still very strong. So we're going to have to wait until, I think, through August to kind of see what happens there. But there's nothing immediately happening in terms of, like, in the past week, earthquake activity in California has me looking like it's about to blow, because we'll probably see something preliminary kind of start up. That's my gut feeling with California, is that we'll get some sort of preliminary activity that is our warning sign that we're about to go. We're not seeing that yet. That we've been seeing activity that's more indicating the progression towards that. Dear God, universe source, we pray for all those who've been affected by these natural disasters recently, Japan, Venezuela, other countries as well. And we just ask that any earth shifts that are needed are done in such a way as to affect the least amount of people destructively in countries, have them occur in areas away from populated centers. We give you our thanks for giving us the earth, this beautiful home that we live on, our spaceship in the cosmos. And we just pray for peace, love, prosperity, and more. Thank you all so much, everyone, for joining me today. Big destructive earthquake in Japan. Not what we wanted. It's what happened, though. Magnitude 7.1 according to the Japanese, 6.8 according to the USGS, depth 10 kilometers. Chance of an aftershock is still quite high as compared to like an even stronger earthquake as compared to just normal. So 5 to 10% chance of something bigger coming, maybe a doublet, probably just aftershocks that are weaker. But we're probably looking at aftershock in the magnitude 6+0 range in the next couple of days. And then also we're going to be watching very closely all these volcanoes that are nearby. Sakurajima volcano specifically has been very active as of late. And while most of the big volcanoes in Japan are clustered here to the south, not all of them, Fuji's of course to the north, but a lot of them here are clustered to the south. So we're going to be watching that very closely as well, as we've been seeing an increase in volcanism across this part of the Western Pacific, Kamchatka, and other locations as well. So I will keep you up to date on everything that's happening with the Earth energetically. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much. Please smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow, get this out to more people. Subscribe to stay up to date with all of this and more. And I'll be back very soon with updates in general. Happy full moon. Prayers for Japan. Do anything you can to, if you are feeling anxious, nervous, calm, ground yourself, do what you need to do. And then send some good energy over to the Japanese, because they certainly need it after this destructive earthquake today. So time to rebuild, repair here, just like they did in 2016. They'll do it and it'll come back better and stronger than before. So thank you all. Have a great Tuesday or whatever day it is now on replay, and I'll see you all very soon.